Hello, I just came back from watching The Marvels, the latest MCU movie, much derided for a good few years now. It got delayed. The release date kept pushing back, I think about 5 times or so. Um, Everyone's saying this is the worst MCU movie. Look, here's the thing. No matter what you think about these movies, doing the characters in the comics dirty somehow, the worst one has to be Eternals. It is to me, and anyone who says otherwise has to give me a good argument, because Eternals was a terrible, terrible, boring, meandering, just aimless movie. It was awful. The Marvels is basically Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, who doesn't have a superhero name in this, and they make a big deal of that, and Miss Marvel from the TV series getting together. They have to fight a Kree woman who's trying to revive her world by stealing air from one planet, stealing water from another planet, and eventually stealing our sun. And she's doing this by creating rifts in space and time. And in doing so, she's actually creating a rip in space-time. Without knowing it, she's just laser focused on reviving her planet. And in so doing, it will destroy the universe and whatnot. And the Marvels have to stop her. And they do refer to that team as the Marvels. The good, I think that the team itself is pretty good. Brie Larson is really good in this. I liked her more as Captain Marvel here than I did in anything else she's been in the MCU. Part of that is that she's been given an actual arc here. It's not much of one, but basically there's a chip on her shoulder here that she did something that messed up the Kree society, and she can't forgive herself for it, and she doesn't know how to fix it. And in the end, she does. And that's, hey, that's an actual character. That's pretty good. Miss Marvel, she's really good here. I thought I would be annoyed by, I think it's Iman Maslany, is that her name? The actress that plays her, I think she's from Toronto or something. She's really good here. As the starstruck young girl. She's got to be in her 20s in real life, but she's playing a 16-year-old. The family from the TV series The Marvels is here. They're really good too. They're not annoying. They don't get in the way, and they're very loving. They care a lot for Kamala Khan. I thought she was great. Miss Marvel tries to save people, and sometimes she can't. And she's down on herself for these things. Sometimes Captain Marvel snaps at her and then apologizes later. I liked all that stuff. The weakest one of the team is Monica Rambeau. The arc they gave for her was pretty stupid, that she's harboring a resentment toward Captain Marvel because Captain Marvel left her when she was 8 and her mother was still able-bodied and took care of her. It doesn't make any sense. It's a shoehorned in, stupid plot that's trying to squeeze in some sort of emotional heart, and it doesn't work because Monica Rambeau is a grown woman. She would have gotten over this freaking 20 years ago. It's stupidness. All that stuff is good for the most part. I like that team. I like their chemistry here. It's pretty good. The problem is that team, those three characters, Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and Miss Marvel, are in the most messy, disastrous plot ever. A lot of this stuff seems to be basically brainstormed hot takes to try and liven up the film and make it interesting and all that stuff. And it's stupidness. The whole business with the characters switching places whenever they use their powers. First of all, the rules of that aren't really established because you figure, okay, whenever they use their powers, they switch, but they use their powers constantly, and then sometimes they switch. And it's whenever the plot feels like it. Also, who switches places and where they switch, that's a whole other thing. It's just all over the place. There are no established rules for it. It's just like plot convenience. They go to a planet where interesting things happen. That's a whole other weird, I mean, interesting things as in they're different, but they don't really figure into the plot line or the story. The same thing with the whole switching the powers thing. It doesn't figure into anything to do with the plot. What else? And there's a whole thing with the cat that, you know, the cat that scratched out what's his name? Oh, I'm blanking on the name. I don't know why. Fury's eye. That cat, of course, is part of a race. They're called the Flurkins. I don't think they're named here. But they eat people, and they can also like spit them out and stuff. There's a whole thing to do with them toward the end. It's just kind of shoehorned in. It's all stuff that's sort of hot-taked and put into this film to be the interesting draw or something like that to the movie. The problem is none of it factors really into the plot line of the film. It's pretty dumb. So the film itself is a mess. I would say that the soundtrack score is pretty awesome. I noticed it a lot in this movie. Lots of theremin, lots of neat, weird science fiction sounds and stuff. It was really cool. I like the soundtrack for this. I'm going to track it down. So yeah, so the good is the three principals and the chemistry of them and their characters. That's cool. I like the soundtrack. Everything else is a bloody, disgusting mess. It's kind of a beautiful mess. I don't recommend this to everyone, but it is an entertaining time when you're in there. It's just you will get lost trying to follow all this stupidness of the plot. You know, it could have been simplified a lot more. This is not the worst MCU movie. As I said, like, I think Eternals is the worst. Like, say what you want about movies ruining comic characters and stuff. Eternals is just a bad movie. It's awful. You know, and I could think of other awful movies worse than, like, MCU movies worse than this. Like Ant-Man 2, and Ant-Man 3, for that matter, are worse than this movie. So yeah, I mean, if you're curious, you'll probably be entertained by the characters. You'll even be entertained by Brie Larson, who shows a little vulnerability in this. So that was interesting. Beyond that, this is a pretty bad movie. I do like overblown bad movies made by giant studios with giant budgets and stuff, because they're awe-inspiring in just their hubris, right? So it's like Batman vs. Superman's an awful movie. I've seen it 10 times though, but I acknowledge it's awful. There's a jar of piss in it and all that stuff, and you know, I just can't believe that a big studio with all these resources can make something so much of a mess. And that's this movie. So if you like bad movies, you'll probably like this. If you're curious to see the chemistry of the main characters, you'll probably like this. But be warned, it's a stupid ass story and plot that'll make you pretty lost pretty fast. So overall, it's bad. It's not as bad, probably, as some people say. And it's definitely not the worst MCU movie. So, that's my review of The Marvels. Till next time, take care.